I lived with my mother, Atara, my father, Saito, my brother, Jabir, and my sister, Naka. My parents had another child, a boy named Angono, but he died when he was 7. He drowned in Lake Poso, and since then, my mother had never been the same person. She was the only one with him on the fatal day. He was busy collecting fruit and didn't see Angono going in the lake. He drowned under her helpless eyes. Several times a year, she went to visit the site where Angono had been placed. Not buried, because our people placed their dead on hillside graves, named Lemos. My father, seeing that she was relentless, had built her a small hut near the place so she could be close to him whenever she visited. He usually left for a few days. Despite my father's insistence, he always went alone and brought provisions with her from home. One day, in March 1963, he left, but did not return after the usual period of about 3 days. The first night after her departure, the weather began worsening. That night, heavy rain fell and thunder cracked the sky relentlessly. We were all worried. My father wanted to give her the privacy she needed to cope with her grief and be together with her son. She had been away several times when the weather had been bad. This time, however, it was weird as it changed way too suddenly. It was almost the end of the raining season, so we did not expect too much bad weather. My father fought the urge to go to her. On the 6th day, however, he could not wait any longer. He woke up in the morning, headed straight to the hillside. I remember his face. It was grave and worried. We all wanted to join him, as our traditions dictate to be close to each other. But he refused. When he returned, I was the first one to spot him through the window of the Tokonan, which is the traditional house of our people. I ran out to meet him. What happened? Where's Mother? Jemima, my dear, he said and hugged me tight, then sobbed. Father, what's wrong? Why won't you tell me? Of course, I knew what happened. There was only one answer, but I foolishly hoped he might say something else. My dear, your mother is dead. He uttered the only words I didn't want to hear. And then I cried. My siblings saw us outside, came to us, and then they cried too. Soon, the entire village knew. My father spoke to the village head, Kuwat. The elders gathered in a hurry, and they marched to the hut where my mother lay dead. She had likely died on the first night after she went there. Nobody knew what had happened. My father told me everything, but later, when he was already insane after following events. My father and the elders found the body laying on its back on the hut's floor. It was in terrible condition, not just because of the decay, but because of rats and other critters. They also found several items in the hut which showed that my mother tried to do some forbidden ritual, which was deemed to be witchcraft. In the village, people considered her a healer because she had helped whomever she could. Of course, we had our shaman, and who had lived many years and many seasons, but my mother was also among those capable of healing. But in secret, they had been trying to do much more than heal. The items in the hut suggested they had tried to reach out to Angono. I know how this sounds, but for my people, these beliefs were important. They believed in the afterlife, or Puya, as it's called in our language. We believe that if a funeral ceremony is conducted under our customs, then the soul will pass into the afterlife and be at peace. But if not, it will become a bombo, or wandering spirit. Among the things they had found, there was also a mirror which had belonged to my mother. I recognized it right away because back then there were only a few people who had such an item. Also, I used it many times, so I was familiar with it. Mirrors were considered windows into the afterlife by some shamans, especially those who tried to talk to the ones on the other side. Many of our people had even refused to use mirrors since they thought it would be a witch's tool. The mirror and other items had been brought back to the village, and the shaman looked at them closely. When he saw the mirror, his face became pale. I was there to witness it. My other siblings were too young, so my father forbade them to witness serious matters such as this. "What's wrong, Slamit?" Father asked. "It is what I feared." Tara performed a Papugian to talk to her dead son. "Look here." Papugian was forbidden witchcraft in our language. He pointed to the mirror. My father's face dropped. I felt goosebumps all over my body when I saw it. A face was visible on the glass, like a faint breath on a window. A pale and childlike figure was staring back at us with empty eyes. The shaman tried to wipe it away, but it didn't work. On the backside, the mirror was painted black. There was no explanation. Her grief had been too hard to bear, but she shouldn't have done this, Slamit said. Oh no. Angono has passed into Puya. The ritual of Rambu Solok had been completed. She knew it's not right to disturb those who had passed. Is that why she had died? I don't know. I think she died of fright, but we will never know. Maybe the ritual had upset the spirits of the ancestors, and they had struck her dead. My dear Tara, how will she pass now into Puya? I don't know. We must do the Rambu Salak with as much faith as we can. We must pray for forgiveness and hope we will peace and please the ancestors. If not, the consequences will be grave. Her spirits will become vengeful, damned to forever haunt the living. only a twisted, corrupted version by hate and suffering. Her grief had poisoned her spirit, my father said. Yes, but there is still hope, if the ancestors are kind enough. I saw tears on my father's cheeks. Of course, I understood his grief, but I did not understand the part about the afterlife and the fact that Rambu Salak, or funeral, had to be done right. Of course, everything became painfully clear later, but at that point, I did not know. They placed my mother's body in the northern area of the house called Alang Banua on an altar. This area was the most sacred part of every house. Then, the preparations began. The body had to be prepared for the funeral ceremony. This consisted of washing it with oils and herbs to try to preserve it. The use of formaldehyde was not yet common in this area. Also, given the state of the body, they had to wrap it in cloth to prevent pieces from falling off. I still remember how the house smelled. It was a horrible combination of herbs, oils, stale sweat, and putrefaction. I can still feel it sometimes out of the blue. Makes my stomach turn every time. These days, as I feel my end coming closer, I seem like feeling it more often. The weather was not improving. It rained a lot and the air was heavy. Despite this, however, the entire village worked as one to prepare the funeral. Buffaloes, pigs, and chickens were slaughtered to prepare for the feast. People were singing and dancing to celebrate life and make the burden of death more bearable. But given the weather, the celebration was sadder than usual. Fortunately, me and my siblings did not have to participate in preparation of the body. Still, from the first night on, weird things began to happen. The dogs around our house were barking all night, and our 2 cats were nowhere to be seen. They came home each evening for a few scraps till my brother's body had been in the house. The cats refused to come home. I couldn't fall asleep, then I had to go out to the outhouse. Jabir and Naka were sleeping in their beds, so I took careful steps to go outside. People were still chanting in the northern room. The air was chilly, and I shuddered, but went to the outhouse to do my business. When I came back, however, my skin erupted in goosebumps, despite not seeing nor hearing anything out of the ordinary, except the dogs. I was at the foot of the wooden stairs which were leading into the house. Under the house, there was a storage area which we call a long. I looked between the rungs of the stair under the house. Some kind of instinct told me there was danger lurking down there. Then, behind some wooden crates, I saw a black shape. It was pretty dark under the house, but given that there was light coming from the other nearby houses, it was not completely dark. I froze for a few seconds as I tried to figure out what it was when it slid behind the crates, with one smooth move and without sound. My feet instantly jerked and pushed me up to the house, while I imagined some icy hands grabbing my ankle and dragging me down into darkness. I ran to my bed and laid there motionless, watching the doorway. Nothing came in all night, but of course, I didn't sleep a minute. I thought about telling my father about the black shape. I didn't want to upset him more, so I chose not to. By the next night, they finished the coffin. Several men had been working on it to make it as ornate as possible, but also to finish quickly. My father could not bear the sight of my mother's body in the shape it was in. He also considered himself guilty, so each look he gave my mother's body were a small piece out of him. In the meantime, people were busy preparing the bamboo scaffolding which was used to carry the coffin to the burial site. Slamet, the shaman, was there to make sure everything was exactly as the Torojan traditions dictated. The weather got slightly better. The ground was full of pools filled with rainwater. It was dripping from rooftops and trees all day. The sun refused to come out, so the sky remained overcast. I feared the coming of the night. Before falling asleep, I prayed to the spirits of our ancestors, or Puangs, as we call them, to have mercy on us. I prayed long and promised them as much as I could. Appeasing the ancestors was important in the Torojan culture. We did it by prayers and animal sacrifices mostly. This was why my father provided so many animals to be sacrificed during the funeral preparations. He knew my mother had committed a terrible deed, but he tried his best to make it right. Me and my siblings went to sleep. Quite some time had passed before I finally began drifting into the land of dreams. Instead of a dream, I had a nightmare. In it, I wandered into the Alang Banua, where my mother's coffin had been placed. Somehow, the house was empty and there was complete darkness outside. I crept closer to the coffin, but then I heard knocking from inside it. This was when I jerked awake, but the knocking did not stop. It came from under my bed, from the floor. I immediately thought back to the shape under the house and felt cold shivers all over. Curled up in my bed and began praying to my ancestors to have mercy on me. Soon, the knocking stopped and I wearily drifted asleep. The next morning, lots of people gathered outside our house. It was the day of the funeral. The whole village was there, and they brought the bamboo scaffolding, which was used to transport the coffin to its final resting place. Clouds began gathering overhead, and I smelled rain in the air. I looked at Slamet, and his face was pale and haggard. People were chanting and singing, but he was silent. I went closer to him, and then I saw something glittering under his colorful clothing. It took me a few seconds to realize it was a large knife, which was usually used to cut shrubbery. It resembled a machete. I was wondering why did Slamet bring the knife with him? Then I foolishly thought it was part of the ritual somehow. Anyhow, the pallbearers brought the coffin out of the house amidst the chants, which were interrupted by sounds of thunder and lightning flashes. Honestly, everything about that day seemed wrong. But what came after was the most horrible event I have ever witnessed. When the pallbearers were carrying the coffin up the bamboo ladder to reach the top of the scaffolding, rain began falling in small drops. They almost brought the coffin up, and one of the pallbearers screamed in horror, "Let it go." The heavy wooden box fell on a bystander, crushing him beneath. People began screaming, running toward the scaffolding. Some of the coffin's planks broke, and I saw my mother and bald hand stick out when it fell to the ground. Then the hand moved. The sudden silence made me stop in my tracks. Everyone who saw it stopped dead. Those behind pushed forward, but then a scream came from the coffin. It was so horrible. My legs buckled and I almost fainted. Then I saw the planks move, and my mother, who had been dead for several days, scrambled out of the rubble. Her endless screams made most people bolt for their lives. Some fainted, others just stood and watched, transfixed by the horror. The screams were coarse, full of anguish and pain. When I saw her eyeless and lipless face, I screamed too, as loud as my throat and lungs let me. This was when she noticed me in the crowd. I don't understand how this was possible, or any of it was possible. She just noticed me and stopped screaming for a few seconds, then started toward me. I saw Slamet draw the large knife and ran to her. This was when I understood the role of the knife. Slamet knew what was going to happen, and he armed himself. Since my mother had tried to summon a dead person who had already passed into the afterlife, he was being punished by the ancestors. He was denied entry into Puya and was sent back to her decaying body to suffer. Slamet raised the knife to strike, but she jumped on him mid-swing and bit mercilessly to his throat. He screamed, but could not fight off the possessed corpse, and his blood gushed everywhere. 3 of the older members of our tribe died of a heart attack when they witnessed this. Many more fainted. I just screamed. My poor father was the only one who gathered his courage and ran to Samlet's aid, even though there was not much hope. He grabbed a knife which was laying in the dust and began hacking. I couldn't watch, so I turned away, but I still hear the screams. My mother's raspy, guttural shrieks combined with my father's desperate, tear-filled wails in a terrible cacophony. Adding to that, the soft chops of the blade as it cut through the dead flesh, and the nauseating smell which engulfed the area made me throw up. The screams faded, then there was silence. My father fell on his back. By that time, rain was pouring profusely, but he didn't care. Nobody cared. It was washed blood and decay away. Nobody from the crowd had ever seen such an event, except from Slamet. But he couldn't tell more tales. My life became hell after that event. The elders decided to burn my brother's body was against everything the Tarajan people believed in. They couldn't think of anything else, and also didn't want to risk it happening again. My mother's ashes were cast into Lake Poso, but that did not put an end to the strange events. I still saw a dark shape under the house, or heard knocking or scratching from various places. After coming to Australia, I thought these events would stop. I was dead wrong. To this day, I see the dark shape appear in shadowy corners. Sometimes I hear shuffling from empty rooms. For a few weeks, the events are happening more frequently. Honestly, can't take it anymore. Maybe I have mental issues and my trauma is manifesting itself. I don't know. No shrink could make it stop. All I know is that I wish there was no afterlife at all. I just want to go in peace, feel nothing. One lifetime of suffering had been enough. I don't want to see my mother's spirit, or whatever that thing is, anymore. I don't want to meet my ancestors who had sent her back to this world to suffer for eternity. I just want it to end. Oh no, the shape is there again. Near the window, behind the sofa. Why won't you leave me alone? Go away. I've had enough. It just stares at me, not moving. The temperature is dropping. This had never happened before. Whispers. I hear whispers. Oh no. Coming toward me. The following news article appeared in the Brisbane Times on the 4th of April, 2023. 77-year-old Jeremiah Duncan had been found dead from a heart attack in her Brisbane apartment. Preliminary examination of the body indicated heart failure because of extreme fright as the cause of death. More information will be known after the autopsy. Interestingly enough, an intriguing recording had been found on her phone. At first, investigators thought it was a farewell recording but it tells a gruesome tale, possibly caused by delirium or hallucinations or her death. No other family member had been inside the apartment at the time of her death, nor were there any signs of foul play. This was all we could have found out about the weird circumstances of her death, and that events baffled the investigators who were trying to piece together the puzzle. The investigation is still ongoing. They left behind 3 children and 7 ground children. May she rest in peace. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our story. Yo, what is up, everybody? Your boy Ceresco, back again with another short horror story for you guys. This one titled "The Girl in the Wall," written by P.D. Williams. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to them. Like, comment, and subscribe. Donnie, when are we gonna stop? I'm tired, and I need a pee. Shannon and Donnie, her sometimes boyfriend, had been driving for hours. They'd left Georgia for Arizona 2 days earlier and still had a ways to go. The trip was more of a desperate escape than a journey towards new adventures. Donnie was deep in debt to the wrong people, and losing his job hadn't helped. It had been rough going for a while until he learned that hope and hard work were no match for dumb, blind luck. He talked to a cousin who had a friend that might have some construction work in Scottsdale. Donnie had nothing to lose except the thumb that his bookie, Ramon, threatened to take in place of his gambling debts. He hoped that a change of scenery and a fresh start might do him some good and save him some appendages. So, Donnie packed a few of his favorite belongings, such as Shannon, and hit the road. He prayed that the iffy motor in his worn-out 2010 Ford Mustang would last the distance. He hoped Shannon would as well. 12 hours in, Shannon needed a break, if only to have somewhere to throw up. She was sick from the exhaust fumes leaking up through the filthy floorboard and regretted a 36-ounce bladder soda she'd gulped down around hour 10. Seriously, Donnie, I need to stop somewhere. Alright, fine. We'll stop at the next motel. That make you happy? Yep, that, a commode, a nice long shower. No sooner had she spoken than they approached an exit on the interstate. A sun-bleached road sign displayed icons indicating that a bar, gas station, and a motel were within a couple of miles. Donnie followed that long, winding off-ramp to an empty stretch of 2-lane road marked Highway 21. A sign posted at the confluence showed the motel was located 1.5 miles down on the left. Everything else was to the right. Donnie headed toward the motel and glanced at the odometer to mark the distance. As he drove, a horrid stench blew in through the air vents. It reminded him of untreated sewage. Shannon crinkled her nose. Oh man, the world is that? I don't know, probably a bog or a pig farm nearby. Too quiet out here. I'm gonna find something on the radio. Great. We're so far out the boonies, you can't pick up anything. Look, just grab one of the CDs and pop it in. If I have to listen to any more Jason Aldean or Foo Fighters, I'm gonna jump out and walk. Alright, bud. Don't whine about how quiet it is. Resentment lingered as they continued along the desolate highway. The road was dark, no streetlights, houses, or passing vehicles. Donnie strained his eyes against the night, unable to see beyond the reach of the headlights as creeping shadows swallowed their dim rays. A thick tangle of trees and tall grass closed in on either side. As they pushed on, a ghostly carpet of white mist rolled over the asphalt as if to welcome them. I don't like this. It's creepy. Hey, you're the one who needs to pop a squat and get some sleep. Want me to turn around and look for someplace else? No. I can hold a little longer. Shouldn't we be there by now? The sign said it was only a mile and a half. Donnie checked the car's odometer. What's up? The odometer says we should have been there 5 miles ago. Well, I didn't see anything with lights on. That sign's probably wrong. Just keep driving. I'll tell you when I see something. Several minutes later, they still hadn't reached the motel. Alright, that's it. I'm turning around. As he looked for a place to make a U-turn, he saw a glowing light in the distance. As they got closer, he could make out a block of bright letters levitating in the soupy night air. Is that a motel sign? Oh, I think that's it. Thank God. My back teeth are drowning. Donnie slowed and turned into the motel's parking lot. Fissures snaked across the ragged asphalt, whole chunks missing like rotted out teeth. The motel was a drab, one-story brick building, the neon sign above the door, a small office. Some of its letters were dead and gone, but enough of them remained to let Donnie and Shannon know they'd be spending the night at the Miller's Motel. Donnie eased the Mustang into one of the parking spaces nearest the door. He was about to kill the engine when something dark ran past the side of the car. Yo, you see that? See what? Donnie turned off the motor. Look, stay here for a second. I want to check this place out. He got out and looked around the vacant lot. The air was hot and stale, abandoned by the wind. The fetid odor from earlier was stronger here. Although he didn't see anything unusual, the eeriness of the scene disquieted him. It reminded him of the feeling he got when he boarded up an empty elevator and a stranger stepped inside at the last minute. Hey Donnie, everything okay? Yeah, it's all good. Just a little white line fever. Come on, let's get checked in. Shannon got out and took a few steps before stopping. Whoa. This joint looks like something out of a slasher movie. I wasn't worn out. I'd pee behind a bush and keep moving till we found a Holiday Inn. Relax. Ain't nothing gonna grab you. As soon as they entered the cramped lobby, a sour scent of stale mop water and lemon air freshener encompassed them. One of the two fluorescent tubes inside the overhead light fixture flickered, creating a strobing effect. No one was manning the small Formica counter that served as a front desk. There was a closed wooden door a few feet behind it. Hello? Anybody back there? We got customers up front. Just a minute, please. Be right with you. The door opened, and a short, chubby man in a white dress shirt appeared. The sweat-yellowed fabric worked in tandem with the overburdened buttons to restrain an overflowing belly. A plastic pocket badge with Leonard imprinted on it complemented the seedy ensemble. What it'll be, friends? Donnie and Shannon took a step back to get out of the range of the clerk's body odor. A nauseous mix of armpits and halitosis. We'd like a room for the night. Alright, I think we can manage that. Placing it on the counter, he flipped through some dog-eared pages until he came to a blank one. He spun the binder around to face Donnie. Alright, just put your name and phone number so I can reach you at the top of the line. You're kinda old school, ain't you? Don't you got a computer, internet access? Nah, no service this far out. We don't see a whole lot of business, just occasional one-nighters, just like you two. Yeah, I figured that much looking at your parking lot. So, what do I owe you? I don't know, whatever you think is fair. Seriously? Look, the owner doesn't always come around and you two look dog tired. How about we do $20? Sound about right? Sold, declared Shannon. Donnie laid a bill on the counter as Leonard retrieved the key from the hook on the wall. Here you go, room 11. Let me know if you need anything else. I'm Leonard, and I'll be here all night. Look, when you go out, hang left, numbers on the door. Shannon thanked Leonard, and she and Donnie headed for the room. Along the way, they swatted through swarms of moths orbiting around the bare light bulbs on the side of each door. When they got to the room, they rushed inside before the squadron of insects joined them. An unpleasant smell greeted them. Dark, dank, and pungent. A stink of pot and sex lingering from previous occupants. The gaudy room looked like it hadn't been remodeled for a very long time. The furniture was worn, old, and cheap. Grimy shag carpeting accentuated fading, peeling wallpaper. Donnie flipped a sticky light switch and a lamp sniped down. So, this is what $20 room looks like. Donnie surveyed the squalid accommodations and shook his head. Don't you have to pee or something? You better know it, cowboy. And Shannon made a beeline to the bathroom. Donnie pulled back the tacky covers on the queen-size bed, exposing a dingy, threadbare sheet. Though a bit road-weary, he felt a pulsing in his loins. There was something about being with Shannon in a cheap motel room. Stripped off to his boxers, climbed under the covers, and waited for her to return. The bathroom door swung open, and Shannon walked out. She stopped and looked at Donnie lying in bed, a look of hope plastered across his grinning face. You're kidding, right? Oh, come on, babe. We could mess around and then grab a hot shower together. Speaking of grabbing, he flipped down her side with the covers and patted the mattress. Donnie, told you I was tired. Look, I'm gonna go get my bag out of the car, come back and wash off. Then I'm going to sleep. Understand? Fine then. You do what you want. I'm taking off. What? Where are you going? I know good and well you ain't gonna leave me here with this $20 outhouse by myself. I'm gonna go find a bar. You take your stupid shower. I have some fun with or without you tonight. He fished his car keys out of his jean pocket and stormed from the room, slamming the door behind him. Shannon didn't think he'd actually leave. When she heard the Mustang's engine revving, she panicked. The thought of being alone at the isolated motel filled her with dread. He ran from the room and headed for the parking lot. Shannon arrived in time to see the red taillights of the car peering back at her like two devilish eyes. Donnie Jackson, don't you leave me here. Donnie, you're a dead man. As Shannon sulked in the now empty parking lot, she noticed a large shadow forming on the edge of the woods across the street. It floated across the parking lot like an ominous cloud. Suddenly, all the night sounds ceased. In the quiet, Shannon thought she heard breathing. She spun around, expecting to see that creepy desk clerk behind her. But there was no one. As the shadow passed in front of the lone streetlight at the entrance of the motel, the light dimmed. Shannon furrowed her brow. The temperature dropped noticeably. She could see her own breath. Ugh, enough of this mess. And Shannon trotted back to her room. She locked the deadbolt, then closed the room's thick curtains. She looked through the door's peephole. Geez, how'd it get so cold? She wondered if her uneasiness about being stranded was playing tricks on her mind. It's probably just a cold front. Still, she couldn't deny that something felt different. Threatening. The mist was so weird. She waited, half expecting a knock, or seeing the mist wafting under the door, invading her lungs and filling them with dry black dust. Keep it together, girl. Come on. You're way overthinking this. After several minutes, nothing happened. He inched her way to the window and peeked through the slit between the curtains. There was nothing outside, just a parking lot. She allowed herself to relax a bit. I need a drink, but a hot shower will have to do. Shannon was about to look around the room for her toiletries bag when she realized they had accompanied Donnie to the bar. Oh, thanks, jackass. She made a silent vow never to let him see her naked ever again. Shannon removed her cell phone from her back pocket and tried calling him. But, as Leonard had said, there was no reception. Well, that's just great. Guess I'll just have to make the best of this dung heap. Shannon looked at the ancient tube television sitting on the dresser, wondering if it still worked. It didn't. This sucks. He plopped on the bed and stared at the brown water stain on the ceiling. It kind of looks like a cross between a bird and a star. That or a plop of poop. She amused herself by attempting to figure out what the pattern reminded her of, as though she was taking a discount Rorschach test. She heard a thump in the wall. Must be mice. She heard it again. Hello? Hello? The voice was faint, like a whisper in the air. Shannon sat up. The knocking continued, and it traveled from the bathroom. Shannon shivered. The mist, the cold, the curious tapping, the disembodied voice made her apprehensive. Easy, girl. Let's go in there, get to the bottom of this. She slid carefully off the bed and stood motionless, concentrating. Hello? Shannon was hoping there'd be no response. She could chalk everything up, frazzled nerves. Hearing nothing, she remained still, quieting her breath. The profound absence of sound made her think of being underwater. Seconds ticked by. She heard it again, and she tensed. The dull rapping emanated from the other side of the wall. She tiptoed closer, and a muffled, childlike voice penetrated the sheetrock barrier. Can you hear me? Please say yes. Shannon chuckled. Oh my gosh, it's only a little girl. Did you say something? Shannon considered whether she wanted to start a conversation with the mysterious child. What might the little girl's parents think they caught her communicating with a stranger? Oh, bless her heart. She's probably lonesome and bored. Alright, just keep it short. What's your name, sugar? I'm Melissa. Who are you? Well, hi, Melissa. My name's Shannon. I guess you're our new next door neighbor. I didn't hear y'all pull in. When did you get here? A while back. Really? Well, we just got here. Was the weather acting up when you arrived? It was doing something freaky earlier. I don't remember. can you keep me company? Shannon hesitated. Now that she'd satisfied her curiosity, she didn't want to get hooked into a long conversation. I'd like to, honey, but I'm getting ready for bed. Nice talking to you, though. The child said nothing more. Shannon assumed that she either had gotten bored or feared her parents busting her. Shannon went back to the front room and lay down on the bed again. She closed her eyes, allowing the stillness to relax her. All of a sudden, she hears loud booming. Shannon popped up. She took a moment to catch her breath. Who's watching that brat? She hears it again. Alright, that's it. I've had enough crap thrown at me tonight. Hey, why don't you people watch your stupid kid? I'm trying to rest over here. Her outburst drew no reaction. Yeah, you better keep it down. All of a sudden, she hears growling that's coming from Shannon's hollow belly. I wonder if there's a vending machine around this dump. Shannon felt around in her front pocket and found a couple of dollars. With some effort, she managed to push aside the earlier weirdness in the parking lot. Releasing a heavy breath, she said, "All right, here we go," and headed to the door. She stopped halfway when she heard a child crying. Shannon followed the sound to the bathroom wall. It wasn't pain or "what do you mean, can't watch TV," or to cry. It sounded mournful, frightened. Her annoyance turned to genuine concern. "Melissa, is that you, sweetie? Melissa, are you okay? Please, don't hurt me." Who's she talking to? Was that child in danger? She pressed her ear against the wall. Soundlessness filled the space within. "Help! Shannon! Help!" Shannon jumped back. She had no idea what the situation was next door. Can't even call 911. No, don't do it. Something smashed against the wall, and Melissa wailed louder. Shannon's instincts kicked in. "I'm coming, Melissa." Shannon then bolted from her room, ran next door, and began banging on the door of room 10. Melissa was screaming. Somebody was tossing furniture. Hey, leave that kid alone." Suddenly, a blanket of quiet dropped. Shannon kicked the door. "You better open this door or I'll knock it down." She expected more yelling, but none came. It was as if someone had hit the stop button on the recording. Shannon was shaking with anger, panting from exertion. What in the Sam hell is happening here? She tried peeking in the window, but couldn't see around the heavy curtains. No light bred through the narrow opening. She heard only cricket songs and the soft fluttering of moth wings. She turned to the parking lot and realized no other car was there. Her neck tingled. He wanted to get back inside quickly, to feel the comfort of light. After securing the door, Shannon sat down at the round, wobbly table under the window to think. I don't like this. Thanks, Donnie. As angry as she was at him for abandoning her for the sake of his entertainment, he couldn't remember a time he wanted to see him more. Shannon? Are you still there? Cold swept over her. Don't answer her. Don't answer her. Just ignore her and maybe she'll go away. I think he just left. Please, I need you. Look, wherever you are, this ain't funny no more. Leave me alone and I'll call the cops. Or at least I would, if the stupid phone worked. But he's coming back. There was genuine fear in the girl's voice. Shannon wondered if she might be dealing with child abduction despite the strange happenings. Or given her anxious state of mind, if there was a little girl at all. He couldn't be sure. I think I'd rather be dealing with ghosts. But her conscience wouldn't let her rest. Shannon went into the bathroom and stood at the wall. Melissa, who's coming? The scary man. I don't want to be here anymore. Please, help me get out. Is there any way out of there? No, I'm locked in and there's no light. She bit her bottom lip. You could use a chair to break open the wall and free the captive girl. But what if the man was still there? Okay, Melissa, I'm going for help. You need to be very quiet. I'll be back soon. But I'm scared of the dark. I need some kind of light. Shannon licked her dry lips. She knew she needed to bring help, but she hated the idea of leaving Melissa alone, crying in the black room. Shannon, are you there? Oh, he's probably close. Please hurry. I'm thinking. Oh, I have an idea. What if I dig a little hole on my side of the wall while you dig one on yours? That way we could meet in the middle. Then I can share your light. Shannon considered Melissa's plan. It might give the frightened child some comfort while she went for help. Honey, is there anything there you can dig with? I don't know. I can't see anything. Look, just feel around. I'll look for something over here. Melissa, did you find anything? No. Did you? No. Then the thought came to her. He scraped the decrepit wall and a wisp of white dust floated around her fingertip. Okay, look, sheetrock is old and thin, so we might be able to dig out with our fingernails. I'm gonna scratch on my wall. When you hear it, follow the sound and start digging. Okay? You ready to listen? She scratched the sheetrock at the height she thought the little girl might be able to reach. She paused to check on Melissa. Did you hear that? It's about 4 feet from the floor. Yeah, I heard you. I know where you are now. I'll start digging. Here I go. Shannon began chipping away at the drywall. As she's expected, the sheetrock was brittle, so she had little trouble breaking through. She poked her index finger into the hole and wiggled it around so Melissa could better locate her. Melissa, feel around for my finger. The child said nothing. Sweetie, did you hear me? Feel around for my finger. Shannon? Yeah, darling. He's here. Something grabbed Shannon's finger and yanked it with enough force to dislocate it from her knuckle. The pain was immediate. She jerked her disconnected finger back, but its hold was too strong. It made her skin stretch like a rubber band. There was a loud crunch as the digit's middle joint snapped upward. Shannon howled. You leave her alone, yelled Melissa. The attacker applied a tighter grip to Shannon's L-shaped finger, tugged the rest of her hand further into the wall. Let me go. I'm sorry, Shannon, I can't make it stop. Shannon realized that if she was going to have any chance of rescuing Melissa and herself, she'd have to act quickly. Using her good hand, she punched a hole in the weakened wall, then grabbed her attacker's arm. Run, baby, run! Another large hand seized Shannon's arm and began squeezing, its sharp nails puncturing her skin. She thrashed around like an animal in a trap. The needle-like pain in her arm grew as the fingers clawed deeper into her stinging flesh. She wailed when the hand fully penetrated her arm, taking hold of the bone underneath. Shannon grunted as mind-twisting terror hammered at her. She put her foot against the wall for leverage and readied herself for the explosion of agony that was to come. As she pushed away from the wall, her arm made low snapping sounds. Her nerve endings were on fire. Screams burned from her vocal cords. Suddenly, the grip relaxed. Shannon flew backward and crashed against the opposite wall, nipping her tongue, the tang of blood culling it. She dropped to the floor and forced herself to assess the damage. Her arm looked like someone had filleted with a dull knife. The bone in the middle joint of her index finger had ripped through the skin. A flood of thick crimson poured from the wound, an open tap. Small white dots formed their vision. She tried crawling from the bathroom, but her shredded arm's blood and ripped tendons made her slip. Cracking sound suddenly made, and the walls split from the holes down to the floor and pulsed outward. A tall, cadaverous figure in a tattered black suit pushed through the crevice like a malformed baby. The spindly horror had no eyes, just deep black holes, weeping maggots. Its nose had two horizontal slits from which a syrupy discharge oozed. With its drooping skin and long gaping mouth, it looked like a caricature of a screaming corpse. It turned and lowered its bald head toward Shannon. Come with me. Shannon's deafening shrieks reverberated in the blood-splattered room. Shock overtook her ruined body, masking the pain. With the torment temporarily at bay, she tried crawling with her useless arm again. The thing laughed, deep and gravelly. It grabbed Shannon by her ankles and pulled her toward the opening. He dug the fingernails of her crippled hand into the tile. Her finger turned around in the opposite direction as the nails from the remaining fingers snapped in half. Shannon went into shock. Mama? Mama? Mama, he mumbled. The thing drew back its head and screamed, a cacophony of terrifying sounds rushing from its throat. The labored breaths of the otherworldly fog, the ghostly whispers of the terrified girl, and every horrified victim before her were captured in his unearthly shrieks. It dragged Shannon's raw body over the hole's jagged shards, plummeting her into the world of shadows beyond the wall. Suddenly, we hear the phone on the counter. It rang only once before Leonard answered it. He never kept it waiting. He drew the receiver to his ear. It's done. Come. Leonard shook. He'd never gotten used to its haunting hiss. He allowed his nerves to settle before going into the closet and grabbing the mop bucket and rags and headed to the room where the mess would be waiting. A few hours later, Donnie swerved into the parking spot outside room 11. Wobbly and reeking of whiskey, he jabbed around the door lock with the key. Getting lucky on the fourth attempt, he unlocked the door and staggered to the room. Only the cheap lamp of the water-ringed bedside table illuminated it. Shannon wasn't in the bedroom. Donnie glanced at the partially closed bathroom door. Babe? You in there? He didn't answer. Seeing the light peeking around the jamb, Donnie figured he still might have a chance to make things right until he screwed up again. Darling? Come on, Shannon. Don't be like that. I just need to get away for a while. Donnie opened the door and looked inside. He groaned at the empty bathroom. Where could she have gone? She didn't have a car. Maybe Leonard had seen her go. Donnie was near the front door when he heard the sound. Donnie? Donnie? Shannon? That you, sugar? Donnie. How the hell I miss her? Donnie returned to the bathroom, looked behind the shower curtain, and found it was empty. Where you at, babe? Donnie, I need you. The muffled voice was coming from the other side of the wall. He went over and leaned his ear close to it. Shannon, what are you doing next door? When she didn't answer, he pounded on the wall. Shannon, quit fooling around and get back over here. Look, I'm sorry I left you to go drinking. Donnie, can you hear me? Barely. Look, I'm tired of all this crap. I'm coming over there. Donnie, listen to me. I need to be quiet as possible. Come closer to the wall. Baby, it's important. Donnie pressed the side of his head against the discolored sheetrock. Okay, what is it? He didn't have time to scream as the hands burst through the wall, grabbed his head, and pulled. The phone in the grimy office rang. Leonard answered it on the first ring. He never kept it waiting. And now, ladies and gentlemen, yo, what is up, everybody? Your boy Ceresco back again. Another short horror story for you guys. This one is titled The Grave Crawlers, written by Old School Horror. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to them. Like, comment, and subscribe. I reached the gates of Whispering Pines Cemetery, but had to stop because my lungs were burning. The hot air outside made my life considerably harder as it dried my mouth and throat mercilessly. My pursuers were not far away, so I had a choice to make. Time was of the essence. I could either continue running or jump the fence to the realm of the dead. Looking to my right, I saw far away the torches of the mob, which was hell-bent on capturing and punishing me. The thievery I had committed was out of the utmost necessity. I still hate myself to this day as I'm writing these pages for that unlawful act. But my punishment had been greater than that which any mob could have inflicted upon me. For what I've experienced that night exceeds the most hellish punishments or nightmares any mind could comprehend. With aching muscles, I struggled to climb the fence. The mob was closing in. I heard their furious shouts. I jumped down on the other side, then hid behind a large gravestone several yards away. They turned onto the street with the cemetery, and just when I thought they'd pass by, they stopped. My heart was beating like the drums of war, and I was struggling to keep my rapid breathing from uttering any accidental sounds. They were arguing outside the fence. Their voices were full of venom, rage. They were eager to capture me. I was praying to God to save me. To my knowledge, nobody had seen my face, so I had a chance to escape. I thought if I could just survive the night without being caught, I could go back to my family. The money I've stolen, I could then help find treatment for my dear daughter, who was in dire need of it. The arguing reached an end, and the mob decided to split up in order to increase their chances of finding me. I sighed in relief, thanked God for his mercy. Had they chosen to enter the cemetery, I would have had no chance. Now looking back, I know it was not mercy from God, rather a punishment for my grave sin. I waited until the raging mass of people dispersed and tried to figure out my next steps. One thing was certain, I could not leave this place. Not soon, that is. I was trapped in that garden of the dead with only ghosts for company. Or so I thought. This place bore an ominous feel to it. I sensed it after my heart and lungs calmed down. The smell of dried grass and dust accentuated the thirst I was feeling. could have killed for a glass of cold water. Could even drink from a dirty puddle. The smell of coming rain began drifting on the wind. This was welcome at first, as the cooling air brought a much-needed relief. The prospect of rain was alarming. I looked to the sky through the pine branches and saw the moon fade behind the amassing clouds, then turned my gaze to the dark shape which was looming in the distance like an everlasting curse. It was the house of the former caretaker and mortician Mortimer Blackwell. He had died before my birth, but his infamy had spread all across New England. Rumors say he had experimented with dark magic, and he had committed unspeakable evils in that very house. Nobody had the courage to go inside that edifice of conjuring and death. His entire family had perished in the mysterious circumstances after his death. So did subsequent buyers of the house. And after nobody was willing to buy it anymore, it stood derelict. Whatever was hiding inside was watching over the cemetery. I shuddered as these thoughts ran through my mind. Then thunder rumbled nearby. The sky was full of mounting fury, ready to unleash upon the land. I had to find shelter. There was no other option but the accursed house. Outside, members of the mob still walking about relentlessly. I had a feeling that they tried to avoid this place. I mean, no sane soul in Harper's Ridge would enter it after nightfall. The awful history of the Blackwell house was keeping people out. Yet, I was inside Whispering Pines, forced to enter the dreaded ruin. So, I gathered my courage and headed toward the Blackwell house, which was several hundred yards away, the gate. I kept convincing myself that if I only stay on the porch outside, everything will be fine. I thought it would be a miserable night if the temperature outside dropped, but being the end of summer, I could survive that. There was nothing which could have prepared me for the things I was about to experience. After a cautious walk among tombstones and pines, I reached the rotting corpse of the Blackwell house. The steps leading to the porch were made of stone, just like the stone of the graves in the cemetery. I hesitated to put my foot on the first step leading to this monument of Erebus, the primordial darkness. But as drops of rain began falling, I took the step with trembling feet. I went to the porch, which used to be covered, but the shingles and woodwork lay in pieces on the mossy stone below my feet. Maybe I will stay in the rain, I thought. The prospect of going inside became ever more frightening. I looked toward the front door, but I saw only darkness. The clouds above blocked almost all moonlight. Fortunately, I remembered I had a few matches in my pocket. As I was fumbling for them, I heard a branch snap from down between the graves. I stopped, listened. Then came something similar to an owl's hoot, but it was sickly. A sound I did not recognize. It was deep and distorted. I turned, but saw nothing. Then another strange hoot sounded, this time from another direction. This one was slightly different, but still definitely not made by now, nor any other nocturnal bird. A long pause followed. I did not move for several seconds, but then resumed my search for the matches. Finally, I found them. I took the small matchbox in my hand and opened it. I felt I have only a few pieces left in the box. Providence was surely not on my side. I lit one, then I recoiled in horror. A few yards away, between the graves, I saw a figure move. A gasp escaped my mouth as I tried not to scream with fright. It was only a fleeting moment, but I undoubtedly saw a humanoid shape crawling on all fours, then disappearing in the shrubbery. The match was quickly burning down, so I threw it away, took out another one. I lit it and tried to look around. The light was meager. The fire was almost touching my finger when I pointed the match to the grave where I saw a figure hide. A pair of bright yellow eyes disappeared behind the stone as the light fell upon it. Something was lurking between the graves. There was no doubt in my mind about it. I was trying to convince myself that it was only an animal, but its movements were unlike that of any creature I knew. Match burned my finger, so I dropped it. Then I heard rustling. Something was coming from the direction of the grave. I took several steps back, but heard the thing approach the darkness. It uttered a menacing but unrecognizable sound as it closed on me. Meanwhile, the falling droplets transformed into rain, and the ramshackle porch roof above provided little protection. I dreaded the thought of entering the accursed house, but I dreaded more the creature a few steps in front of me. With a pounding heart, I turned and ran toward the blackness where the front door of the house was supposed to be. That thing bolted after me, but I reached the door just in time. My hand instinctively found the latch, and I opened it, stepped in, and closed it before the creature could catch me. I heard it pace around the door, sniffing, probing. Go away, damn you, I thought while I was gripping the latch with both hands. And finally, it retreated. I sighed, but I was in a worse situation than before. If a thing like that was outside, who can tell what was inside? The smells drifting in the house were the most unnerving and peculiar. I felt as if I stepped inside a crypt, not the ruins of a house. Smell of rats and mold blended with the miasma of the grave, of unearthed bodies left to rot. Everything there reeked of desecration and unholiness. If there was a God, I think he was staying far away from this place. I held the door for some time, anticipating the creature's return. But it did not come back. I was suspecting its intent was to come in through a different entrance to surprise me. After it left, only silence remained. Faint skittering hit my ears. First, it startled me, but then I recognized the sound, that of rats moving around. I lit another match and looked around. Lots of debris lay about the house. A few feet away, I noticed a heap of old wood planks. I picked up a thin piece and held it inside the flame. It was dry, so it caught fire where the match burned out. By the light of the meager flame, I searched the heap for the plank sturdy enough to prop the door with. To my relief, I found one. After propping the door, I turned with the intent of exploring my surroundings. It was not the prospect of discovery which was fueling me, but the assurance of security. I wanted to see if there was any immediate danger near me, or anything useful. It was clear to me that surviving the night was exceptionally more difficult than I had imagined previously. At least I was sure the mob was not coming after me there. As I walked into the living room, I heard and felt the floorboards creak painfully under my weight. A thick layer of cobwebs and dust covered everything. Rat droppings were everywhere. I noticed a large table in the living room, and my heart began pounding after seeing what was on it. An oil lamp enveloped in thick cobwebs lay upon top of it for who knows how long. I paced to the table, took the lamp, and in my hand, I felt right away there was still some oil in it. It was the most welcome find, just like a thirsty man finding water in the desert. Some unfortunate soul who had entered this God-forsaken place must have left it on the table a long time ago. After clearing the cobwebs, I lit it. At first, the light it gave out was faint, but the flame got bigger after several seconds and illuminated the place much better. Weak flame, but thin piece of wood. Now, as the inside of the house was illuminated better, I saw my surroundings more clearly. The floor had several holes in it, and I noticed a large rat climb out of one of the holes. The light visibly confused it, and after staring at me with its beady eyes, it walked away nonchalantly to a dark corner while passing close before me. I turned and followed it with my gaze. Then I looked up after I saw it no more. I gasped when I saw the movement in the corner at a butt eye level. Something was moving there, or maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. Instinctively, I took a step back towards the middle of the living room. The boards below my feet squeaked, but I didn't pay much attention. My eyes were fixed upon the shifting, undulating darkness. Then, to my utmost horror, it came out of the corner and began floating toward me. There was no doubt in me anymore. A haunting presence was there with me. A dark consciousness which had somehow survived the certitude of death was approaching me. As it got closer, I saw it possessed a human shape. But it was as black as the darkest pits of hell. It had no features, only a contour, and it radiated an icy chill. I still don't understand how something could radiate coldness, but that thing certainly did. It was emanating from it, and I felt it drain all the remaining warmth from my body. Then it spoke, but it was no language I understood. It was a strange mumbling which reverberated in my mind like some kind of dark chanting. I took several steps back while my skin was crawling from the icy touch of fear. Then, on my last step, I heard a crack, and I was falling backward into the abyss. I screamed, of course, as the fall came as a surprise. I instinctively clutched the oil lamp close to my body to avoid breaking it. The last thing I wanted to do was set myself alight. I was expecting to hurt myself, but to my surprise, I felt on something regularly soft. The smell which hit me was atrocious. It was like being locked in a coffin with a rotting corpse for company. Then I looked around and saw what was below me on the basement floor. A pile of bodies in various stages of decomposition, with rats crawling all over them. I threw up right then and there, then scrambled to get up and move as far away from the horrible pile as possible. My incredible luck, the lamp was still burning. I was clutching it like a mother would clutch her dear newborn child. I searched for the humanoid darkness, which caused me to fall into this mass tomb, but I did not see it. The basement was littered with all kinds of waste. Close to the pile of bodies, I noticed the broken wood planks, which had once been coffins. Then I heard rustling from near one of the walls. I looked towards the source in the sound and saw a large hole in the brick wall. Then I saw another a few yards away. Rustling became louder. It was as if something were crawling through one of these holes. Then I remembered the strange creature which attacked me outside. I was expecting it to come through one of these holes to resume its attack, so I looked for a way to escape. I saw the remnants of a staircase, which was once leading to the floor above, but its lower part was lying in a pile below it. I had looked towards the hole again as the crawling intensified, and I saw the creature. It stuck its head out, its fiery eyes gleaming with otherworldly radiance. In its mouth, a human hand was dangling. Bluish and rotten, it had most likely ripped it off a cadaver somewhere in the cemetery. When I saw the creature with the hand in its mouth, I realized what that place was. An unholy feeding ground for the monstrosities born of the dark magic and necromancy perpetrated in the Blackwell House. I had no time to ponder more on the subject. However, because in the second hole, another creature appeared. This one had no body part in its mouth. It uttered a screech, which I felt inside my bones. Its mouth opened wide, revealing countless sharp teeth made of rending flesh. Its skin was dark gray, slimy, and covered by soil. The creature had thin, long hands and a large palm, adapted to dig tunnels through hard soil and rip coffins apart. My eyes darted around, searching for a way to escape. Both creatures jumped out of the holes, and the first one dropped a hand from its mouth. It fell to the floor with a soggy thud. More creatures followed the first two. That was when I genuinely thought, I will serve as food for these ghouls, just like the bodies I have fallen over. As I was retreating, I turned my head and saw a small opening on the opposite wall. It was a small basement window. I knew right away I had to try it. It was my last and only chance, but with the beast closing in, I doubted I would get out. They approached, trying to encircle me while more came from the holes in the wall. A larger one came through, and when it saw me, it growled menacingly, then jumped into the pile of bodies. Saliva was dripping from its mouth. It must have been their leader. That was when I bolted toward the window. The beast growled and ran after me. I reached the opening with a few steps, but I felt them close. I smashed the lamp into the ground behind me, and the oil spilled and caught fire, blinding the nocturnal creatures for a few seconds. I jumped and grabbed the edge of the opening and pulled myself up. Under normal circumstances, I'm not sure I would have done that feat, but panic made me strong for a few seconds. I almost dragged both my feet up when I felt claws dig into my flesh. The pain was sharp, cutting like a razor blade. I screamed, caring not about who might hear me from the streets outside. At that time, I preferred the people hunting me infinitely more than the ghouls from the abyss. The creature was dragging me down, its claws sunk into my flesh like hooks. I clawed at the stone, trying to overcome the pulling force, but then felt the beast clawing itself up my body. I shrieked as I felt the claws dig into my buttocks and lower back. Then, involuntarily, I struck the window pane, which was already cracked. It broke into several pieces, and I grabbed one shard with my right hand. As the creature made his way up, I stabbed backward behind my ear. It screamed as the shard sunk most likely into its eye. I felt a cold, vicious fluid cover the right side of my face and neck. It reeked of the grave. The monster fell backward, and I no longer felt its weight dragging me down. I then quickly grabbed the rim where the window pane used to be and pulled with all my might. I didn't notice a shard of glass cutting deep into my palm. All I wanted was to get out by any means necessary. I did, but it was not over. I saw the shape of another creature in the opening. Rain fell on me mercilessly, but I did not care. It washed away the putrescent gore, which struck to me when I fell onto the pile in the foul blood of the monster I'd stabbed. In the basement, the fire caused by the broken lamp was already fading. By its dying light, I saw several hideous heads pop up behind the creature, which was already crawling outside. Having no weapons or anything which I could use to defend myself against, I ran towards the cemetery's edge. I heard them behind me as they gave chase. At the last moment, I changed directions with a sudden move. This made one of them crash into a gravestone, which shattered. So I ran, changing directions several times. My body was screaming for me to stop. My lungs were at the end of their capacity, and my heart was bursting out of my chest. Fortunately, I reached the fence. I jumped on it, and in a few moves, I was already on the other side. There was no time to be careful, so I fell on my side in a large puddle of fresh rainwater and gasped desperately for air as my chest was exploding from the effort. I turned on my back and heard the distant shouts of the people who had been chasing me. Rain fell onto my cheeks, and it was the most welcome feeling in the world. No abysmal monster jumped the fence to kill me. Members of the mob reached the place where I fell to the ground. They shouted for the others to come. But then silence came upon them. I sat up and looked between the iron bars toward the darkness of the cemetery. The men screamed in fear, abandoned all prospects of capturing me, then ran in all directions. There, the crepuscular domain of the dead, countless grotesque figures were watching with burning hatred and hunger in their long, dead eyes. But whatever ancient curse that awakened them, it also forbade them to step beyond the boundary of their domain. One by one, they faded back into the shadows. They retreated to the house of death, where the frigid ghost, Mortimer Blackwell, was still watching over his children. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our story. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again. The new horror story for you guys. This one is titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author. Like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 1. The house on X Avenue stood staring at me in the afternoon light. It seemed to have known that I was coming back to my hometown of La Grande, Oregon. At least, what lay inside knew I was coming back. I was compelled to confront the question that had always bothered me. What is inside this house? I remember the time my mom told me when she was a child she had seen a scary, multicolored face appear on the wall, staring at her in the middle of the night. She told me how she had to ask her sister about it and was taught the Lord's Prayer, which seemed to give her some relief. I remember other family members telling me about voices in the night and apparitions. Everyone seemed to have come in contact with the spirit of the house. I felt in my heart that it was time to end the haunting for good. A 1980 F-150 pickup pulled up to the curb next to me. An old-timer in his 60s climbed out. He wore a white t-shirt, tattered overalls, white sneakers. He walked toward me with a slight limp, perhaps from years of working at the lumber mill. "You Jonathan Campbell?" I nodded. "Yeah, that's me. You're Bob Fraker, property manager for the bank?" "Yep, don't let appearances fool you. My limousine is in the shop. The term property manager is used loosely. I prefer the title caretaker, since I can't make any manager's salary after my retirement. I just make sure the grass is cut, face off any squatters." "May I take a look inside?" "Sure, but I can't imagine why you'd want to. You were a little vague on the phone." "Yeah, the house was in my family for a few generations. I thought I'd take a trip down memory lane." Bob just handed me the key with a sour look. "Well, you have to go in by yourself. I don't go in that house anymore. There's something wrong with it. It stayed unoccupied for 15 years. One person who rented it was found dead in the morning, sitting in her recliner." Bob walked with me to the porch. He continued to explain. "The last renter moved out about 3 months. He said he felt unwelcome. He had the place scared him. So, the bank took it over after the last owners couldn't afford the taxes on it. Police stopped responding to calls from the neighbors, kept reporting they were seeing moving shadows inside the house at night." "May I go in?" Bob gave me a silent nod, and he stepped aside, acquiescing to what he clearly thought was my foolish choice. I turned and headed up the 2 steps to the front door. The grass in the yard looked like they could have used a machete, and then a weed whacker. The paint on the outside of the house was badly weathered. Thought about all the times that I had been in the house as a kid. Never actually had any bad experiences, but I could remember the reports I've heard from various family members. Some saw spirits at night, others saw demonic faces on the wall. The fact that people had been and were currently affected by the entity in this house made me determined to find out what it was and how to stop it from hurting anyone else. I took a deep breath and inserted the key to the lock on the front door, then stepped inside. The strong smell of mildew caused me to step back, covering my nose and mouth. I proceeded slowly in, still covering my face, and saw cobwebs everywhere, on the walls, ceiling, and over the furniture that had been left behind. The house was a small 2-story structure with 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms upstairs. One of the bedrooms had the chimney to provide a divider in the middle of the room. I moved through the living room cautiously and entered the kitchen where there was an old electric range oven. I'm not sure what I was really looking for. I guess I hoped for something that would just jump out and say, "Ooh." I entered the bathroom, and like the rest of the house, everything was dusty and covered in cobwebs. I walked to the mirror to see if something spooky would be in the reflection. like in the horror movies. But I saw nothing. I know enough to avoid provoking things to happen, because it is basically an invitation. You walk by a dog's yard, the dog will bark at you while you pass by. But if you stop and roar at it, the dog will come out of his yard, bite you, and chase you away. Feeling a little let down by the lack of any activity, I climbed up the stairs to the bedrooms. The air became heavier, which naturally made me hesitate. I said a little prayer under my breath for protection. My Christian friends would approve. My New Age friends would say, use a light shield. I reached the doorway at the top of the stairs and entered the first bedroom. As I stepped in through the door, it felt like I was entering cold water, very unwelcome. In my peripheral vision, I saw movement as I turned to face it. Nothing. The house was well lit due to the light coming through the windows, and I could see quite well. Despite the brightness, I turned on the flashlight I had brought with me. I was doing my best to ignore the gnawing fear in my belly. This was the room that always had the most activity. I pressed forward, fighting the intense desire to run. My legs felt as if they had been filled with lead, and I was treading through waist-high whale water. Just then, my hip buzzed, startling me for a second, and the generic ringtone of my phone went off. I pulled the phone out of its case. For some reason, it wouldn't show me the caller ID. I answered hesitantly. Hello? Honey? It was my wife, Lisa. Hey, sweetie, how's it going? Okay, we're making lunch. When are you gonna be? The phone cut out, started crackling. It reset. Then my flashlight flickered out. I tried to turn around and leave, but my feet were planted on the floor. A shadowy head rested intimately on my right shoulder from behind. Black arms wrapped around my waist. A sensation of cold pressed into my back. I would have screamed if I had a voice or even breath, but the air was sucked out of my lungs. My eyes darted up and saw an old vanity mirror, most likely from the previous tenants, leaning against the wall to my right. I could see myself with the shadowy form wrapped around me. As I focused on where my face should be, it began to visually solidify view. If it had a slightly longer nose than should be normal for a human, its eyes were cruel and also full of hunger. The face shimmered and undulated with iridescent colors. The body of the spirit was like boiling black tar, kept in place by invisible skin. It pressed its face against my head and began pushing itself into me. In that moment, I thought about a video that I had watched from a New Age speaker who claimed that we focus on through faith is what we manifest due to our own deity inside us. And I came to the realization that to a certain extent, it was all a load of crap. I had a demon trying to jump to my body. The faith part is very true. My logic immediately recognizes that I hadn't invited the thing. Therefore, it couldn't have me. I became angry, and I visualized the dove of the Holy Spirit in my mind as I invited it to illuminate the room. I heard a scream of rage and terror, and I suddenly wasn't sure it was me or the ghoul that held me in place. I realized I couldn't move again, so I turned around and ran down the stairs like a frightened rabbit. Outside, Bob Fraker had his tailgate down, and he was sitting on it, reading the newspaper. He saw the terrified look on my face as I ran out of the door, and he stared at his feet. Whoa, what happened to you? Kick a bear in the balls? What the hell was all that noise? Let's just say you were right about avoiding to go into that house. Bob patted me on the shoulder and said, "Look, man, why don't you just go home and shake this off? Maybe buy you a cup of coffee in the morning at Denny's. We could talk this out." "Yeah, sure. I'll see you in the morning, man." That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 1. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again with another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below to show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 2. Sweetie, I'm telling you, it was so freaky. I was totally paralyzed. I want to get this house exorcised. I don't like it. I don't want you going into that house again. Look, if you want to get someone to exorcise it, that is fine. But promise me that you will not go in there again. Please. I promise. Personally, I never want to experience that again. I looked around the dinner table, the rest of the family. I was so caught up in retelling of my bungled ghost hunting that I'd forgotten about everyone else at my sister Lily's dinner table and her kids. Oops, should have waited till later. My 7-year-old nephew, Jeffrey, was the first to break the silence. Uncle Jonathan, you really go into that haunted house? My sister's face darkened. Jeffrey, your uncle was describing a scary movie that he was watching, wasn't he? Yeah, right. Yeah, I was describing a scary movie. Absolutely. Who wants ice cream? The kids and the adults all shouted the affirmative. Good save, sister. You're a good mom. The rest of the evening was pretty uneventful. We ate ice cream, watched a few movies. I called Pastor Randall from my brother-in-law's church to set up to meet the following afternoon. Bob Fraker was also available to provide the house key and laugh at us as we poked around the scary house. It was finally going to be over. The supernatural was just a passing interest to me. I had certainly never been a paranormal expert. Watched a bunch of ghost hunter and medium shows, grew up in church, watched a few documentaries on the subject. I even had a few experiences myself. I'd read a few books, both on the Christian perspective and in the New Age viewpoints, but I was doing something relatively stupid. Like the crocodile hunter, I was going to the angry, spitting cobra with a pair of sunglasses so I could poke it with a stick. How was I doing this? Perhaps I didn't want to really believe it was real. It wasn't like anyone asked me to deal with it. What bothered me was that no one was dealing with it. And I knew people whose lives had been affected by whatever it was in this house. We fell asleep on the couches, watching a movie called Repo, a genetic opera, starring Paris Hilton. I'm serious. As I was sleeping, I began dreaming about having a conversation with this man in an expensive business suit. I couldn't make out what he was saying, or even what he was saying, or I. But it was if I was actually eavesdropping on the conversation. But as I began to understand the words, a cold feeling began to spread across my chest. I decided to confront this guy. You're up to no good, are you? What are you doing here? His eyes began to focus on me with a smug smile, and just stared at me in silence. I began channeling my inner high schooler. Dude, who are you? He began to hiss at me, and my arms became paralyzed. It was then that I reminded myself that I was dreaming. The man's hiss turned into a guttural snarl, like he was just had a continuous breath. I pushed through my terror and lunged at the man. Then I woke up. As my eyes opened, I saw a smoky shadow hovering over my face. It snarled at me, and I angrily backhanded it. My hand swiped through the smoke. As I looked around, the living room was as it should be. I got up, went to the sink, and poured myself some water. It had followed me. I remembered from some of the things that I had learned from some of the ghost shows that some ghosts can follow you. Demons can, and poltergeists. They had tried to jump my body. That made me furious. It had tried to jump me. With that thought, I walked back to the couch with the determination that this thing wasn't going to keep me losing sleep. About half an hour later, Jeffrey quietly tapped me on the shoulder to wake me. I rolled over. Hey, what's up, buddy? He looked very serious. Uncle Jonathan, a shadow was smothering me. I suppressed my rage at hearing this. I forced myself to take a deep breath. Come here, buddy. Do you know the Lord's Prayer? He shook his head, and I motioned for him to sit beside me. Well, let me teach you. This will give you a focus of faith to protect you from scary stuff, okay? Father, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone who sins against us. And lead us not into temptation. With each verse that I said, Jeffrey repeated, and his expression lightened. Uncle Jonathan, I feel better. I think I'll go back to bed now. With that, he walked back to his room. I rolled over to focus on my determination to go back to sleep. But mostly, thought about my chance to take a shot at this thing. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 2. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again. Another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author. Like, comment, and subscribe. A sense of fear weighed on Jeffrey's heart as he lay in bed trying to get sleep. Like most children, he always had a sense when something else was in the room. He tried to focus on one of his toy cars. That was one of his passions. He loved cars, and he loved being out in the garage with his dad, Rick. He liked to be helpful by handing his dad tools. His grandma always complimented him about how much of a good job he did when he helped her with the chores. He just wished that his fear would go away. A hot weight pressed down at his feet. Even though he couldn't see anything, he couldn't get past his fear. An invisible hand pressed on the bed, like someone was moving on all fours. Jeffrey began to tremble. His breathing became labored as another hand pressed on the bed to the other side of his legs. He became so afraid that he clicked on his lamp and kicked up to where the invisible thing should have been. But he connected with nothing but air. The heavy weight was gone. Jeffrey comforted himself by replaying his favorite video games in his mind. After a while, he drifted off to sleep with the lamp on. He was dreaming about walking around in a game, stacking blocks and breaking through other blocks. Just as he broke too deep, digging in the down direction in his game, fell into darkness. Something grabbed him in the dark, and a slurping, sucking sound came to his ears. He couldn't scream, and he couldn't fight. All he could do was fall down into the abyss, as his life energy was getting sucked out of his body. Then, he opened his eyes to see a dark, smoky shadow pressing in on his face. The slurping, sucking was coming from the shadow. Jeffrey felt his energy being drained from him. He struggled to move, fight the thing off. He couldn't scream, and he couldn't breathe. In desperation, he imagined angels coming down into his room on a ray of light, and the shadow screeched in frustration and slithered away on the floor. Jeffrey went out to the front room to see that his uncle was awake. Relief flooded into him, because now he could tell a grown-up. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 3. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again with another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 4. I woke up at 10:30 in the morning. I love it when you don't have to feel guilty for sleeping in. Vacations are awesome. I let my wife know that I was going to meet Bob for breakfast and then go over to X Avenue to talk to the people in the neighborhood about the house. I thought it would be a good time to get some background on it. At the Denny's in Island City, the server brought us our coffee cups. Her name tag said Gina on it. I took a sip of the coffee, and it was as expected. It needed liberal amounts of sugar and creamer to hide the strong, bitter taste. Bob took a sip of his black coffee and smiled in satisfaction. Good coffee. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that it was a trip down memory lane in the old family house, was it? Yeah, you caught me. I was ghost hunting in the old family house. And what in God's name will make you do that? It's like with that Australian guy poking dangerous animals with a stick for the camera. You know, thought the same thing. So what will make you do that if you already know what's in there? Personally, I didn't know what was in there. Some of my family had seen things and wanted to know for myself. More importantly, I suspect that it is affecting the people in the neighborhood. Well, what do you think it is? I saw you running for your life out that house. Was it a ghost? Whatever it is, doesn't play well with Christian images. A demon? Well, I'm not an expert, but I would probably agree with you. But you asked why I would do such a dumb thing like poking around with paranormal elements. Here's your answer. My family has had its own run-ins with this thing, which I have only heard about. But according to newspaper articles, I have also found incidents that have happened over the last 20 years near that house. 20 years ago, 19-year-old Todd Riggs was convicted of rape and murder. His house was here. 5 years later, Conrad Black is turned in by his wife molesting their daughter, and he is convicted. He dies in prison because inmates don't take kindly to his kind on the inside. I point to the X that marked the house that was a few streets north of the house on X. There are 3 more similar cases over the next 15 years. Only 2 of the 5 men are alive today. It's time someone did something about it. Bob looked at me and nodded. Well, what do you want to do about it? Well, my sister-in-law is no pastor. Maybe I can get in touch with him and ask him to try and exorcise it. But what can hurt it? The house won't sell anyway. Look, I'll do what I can to help. Meaning, I'll give you the key and sit back, watch you poke scary things with your stick. I may even laugh at you if your stick doesn't work. Alright, I'll get the number and let you know when he is available to meet. I called Pastor Randall, and as luck would have it, he was available to meet a few hours later that same day. I arrived a little early to talk to the neighbors. Knocked on the houses close by. No one answered. A few doors down, an elderly woman answered the door.
Yes?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Campbell. How are you today?
I'm Mr. Johnson, but I'm not buying anything.
I had to recover before she shut the door. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not selling anything. I'm meeting Bob, the caretaker, to look at the house 2 doors down.
Why would you go there? Don't you know about that house?
I know a little. My mom and her family lived in it for years.
And you do know that house was bad enough before your family moved out. People would see things occasionally. Ghosts. But later, whenever the house was empty, shadows would come out at night. A few years ago, a renter died in that house, leaving his dog behind. Poor thing howled, whimpered for a week. Called the police, but when they got there, he was already dead. Another renter, Randy, said that he wouldn't go upstairs. Sometimes, his 2 dogs would block the stairway to keep him from the 2nd floor. He would have to lock them up in the truck so he could go up and get something. He said that he felt unwelcome up there. He eventually moved out. Randy was such a nice man. I don't go near the place myself. The last time I passed by the house was when I still had my little dog, Muffy. He was such a sweet little thing. Well, as Muffy was doing her business, a movement caught my eye in the upstairs window. When I looked up, I saw an inhuman face. It was a multicolored form, shimmered. It was staring at me. The look made my blood run cold. I asked my psychic, Alicia, about that house, and she said there were a few things wrong with it. She offered to save the house for $100, but it isn't my house and I'm on fixed income.
I'm sorry for what you've gone through, but I'm meeting Bob and the pastor at the house. The pastor has offered to do an exorcism at no cost. I appreciate what you've told me. That is exactly what I wanted to know.
Can I help in any way?
You could pray, sing good thoughts, then the blessing. Whatever you do for spirituality. She looked down at her feet.
I haven't had much time for religion. I pray every now and then, but I think that I'm done with church.
That's okay, Esther. Jesus cramps religion style too. I'll let you know how it goes. Just then, Bob's truck pulled up to the house.
Well, that's Bob.
Well, it's good to meet you, Esther.
You too, dear, and God bless you.
I walked back to the house where Bob was waiting. Been here long? Oh, just an hour, I thought. I would ask around the neighborhood stories about the house. So, what did you find out? Well, about quite a bit. Shadows in the night. A person and a dog died in the house. A ghostly, multicolored face showed itself in the window. Esther, the lady I was talking to, consults a psychic on a regular basis. She told her about the house, and her psychic told her that there was a lot of bad stuff. She offered to sage the house for $100. I wonder if it would be that easy. Well, good thing you found Pastor willing to do it for free. I will try to get him back in some way. Just then, an old, well-used gold Saturn with mismatched tires pulled up. Bob slapped his knee, laughed, and exclaimed, "Ask and ye shall receive." A slightly balding man in his 50s got out of the car. He was medium build and medium height. His untucked, blue long-sleeve shirt and pressed jeans made him look hip and trendy. He gave his best winning smile that told me this guy was an achiever. He had the build of someone who had been an athlete when he was younger. This guy was not homegrown in La Grande. I have lived outside of my hometown for a while, and I've learned that the only cool alpha male pastors are found in large cities where the high-paying mega churches are. This guy was driving an old, beat-up Saturn. That made him pretty respectable. Jonathan Campbell? I'm Pastor Randall Price. Good to see you again. It's been a while. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I haven't seen you in like forever. You ever performed an exorcism on a house before? Not on a house, but I have prayed for people who thought they were a demon possessed, and they have reported that they feel healed. Well, good enough for me. So, what am I going to do if he fails? Let's get started then. Clapped his hands together and rubbed them. Hey guys, you say a quick prayer? He held out his hands, indicating that he wanted us to take hold of him. Bob hesitantly took Pastor Randall's hand, and I did the same. The pastor started his prayer. Lord Jesus, pray to you for protection against the forces of darkness. And we pray that you send your angels to cleanse this house, dominion of Satan. We pray for the power of the Holy Spirit to descend upon this house in the fullness of Christ. In the name of Jesus. I was quite moved by the prayer. Bob politely took his hand back and crossed himself in the way that identified his Catholic origins. All three of us took confident strides to the house. We felt like warriors going to fight darkness. Just as our feet landed on the first step leading up to the door, the front door opened wide and then slammed shut. Our bravado just took a deflating poke. We looked at each other for a second, and then Bob and I looked at Pastor Randall. "After you," Bob gestured to Randall. The pastor looked at us, shook his head. He stepped up the next 2 steps and grabbed the handle. Taking a breath, he pushed the door open and entered the house. Bob and I followed to the doorway without walking inside. "Hey, last night, I promised my wife that I wouldn't go in again." "Yeah, I'm good right here," Bob added. Inside, Randall surveyed the house and he took another calming breath. "Well, here goes nothing." "Satan, I cast you out in the name of Jesus." There was a silence. He continued, "Demon, come out of this house and never return in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." There was continued silence. I offered, Pastor Randall, I think that the problem is upstairs. That's where I had my encounter." "All right, well, I'll go take a look." He started up the stairs. Just as the pastor stepped on the step, the door at the top finally slammed shut. I raised my finger, rooted to stop at the door. I don't think that we were welcome. Bob turned around and started back down the porch stairs to leave as he huffed. Yeah, I didn't sign up for ghost wrestling or poking around with invisible monsters, so I'm out of here." He went out the door and down the landing. Just then, the front door slammed violently in my face. I looked up to Pastor Randall through the window, mouthed, "Looks like it's just you and me. I'm right here if you need me. I hope that you know what you're doing." The pastor swallowed. "Me too." Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the end, chapter 4. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again. Another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 5. As Bob stepped away from the house, the front door slammed shut violently. It startled him so much he almost stumbled down the 2 steps of the front porch as he tried to hurry to his truck. He contemplated getting in and just going home. Forget the key, the house, and all of this trouble. He wasn't getting paid enough for this anyway. But he knew that it would look bad to the 2 young bucks inside. So, he waited. Bob had worked at the local lumber mill most of his life until he retired. He had just recently taken the property manager job because it was mostly a part-time thing. They didn't demand much of him, most of the time. He and his wife Madeline were high school sweethearts, and they had been through thick and thin together. Now, they were spending their golden years with one another. Bob liked to play gruff and grumpy, but inwardly, he was soft-hearted. He would throw himself in harm's way for a child or a woman. He reached for his cell phone to call his wife Madeline. It was still a flip phone because those confounded touchscreen smartphones were just too much of a hassle. He plugged in the number to the house. His grandchildren were always giving him a hard time about saving numbers on his phone. His reply was always, "That's what my brain is for, sonny." His wife answered on the fourth ring, which meant she must have been outside. "Hello? Maddie, still in the house. Everything okay?" Yeah, fine. I just wanted to check in with you. That young fellow Jonathan is walking around the house with the preacher. I'll just let them have their fun and see what happens." The phone began to crackle. "Hello? Can you hear me?" Just then, a hissing snarl sounded out by his right ear like someone was standing just behind him. Bob cried out and dove forward to the ground to escape what was behind him. When he rolled over, he saw there was nothing there. He started to laugh it off and push himself onto his knees when a pair of invisible vice grip-like hands grabbed his ankles and began to drag him backwards on his belly. Bob clawed at the ground, ripping up rocks and clumps of grass. He wondered of the guys if they were going to think that he was crazy for calling for help, but then he saw that they were being dragged to the back of the house. The one place that truly scared him was the cellar. It was mostly a sloping hole in the ground that led to the crawl space under the house. It was nothing but dirt and old tools. Bob started screaming. That had to be the place that the thing was dragging him to. There were spiders and other things under there. He had even commented to a contractor how much that spot creeped him out. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end, chapter 5. Yo, what is up, everybody? Let's go back again. Another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author. Like, comment, subscribe. Chapter 6. Back inside the house, Randall tried the upstairs door. The handle moved, but the door was jammed from the force that it hit. Randall put his shoulder into it, but it wouldn't budge. He had to hit it 3 more times. And on the 3rd hit, the door gave way and he boldly went in. I admit that I had my hands out in a cheesy karate chop defense, as if something that can pass through walls could be blocked by my moves. Made me feel a little bit better. I shook off my subconscious efforts. Was kind of disappointed. I expected more drama, more things flying around the house as I looked through the window. Pastor Randall spoke up. "Demon, you are not welcome in this house. Be gone in the name of Jesus." He repeated himself a few more times, louder and thrusting his fist into the open air. He recited the Lord's Prayer from the King James Bibles. After a long moment of silence, we heard Bob scream from outside. Help! Help me! It's got me! Randall rushed down the stairs to the front door, but he couldn't get out because it was jammed. So he ran to the back door, spurred on by Bob's continued screams for help. It sounded like he was moving. As Randall ran out the back door and I ran around the side yard, we saw that Bob was on his belly, desperately clawing at the ground as he was being dragged on by an unseen force. He was already in the backyard, being pulled to the back of the house for some odd reason. We dogpiled him and kicked out at where his attacker should be. We connected with nothing. We were able to see Bob's feet drop to the ground. We rolled off of him and helped him up. Then we threw his arms over each of our shoulders and started walking and dragging Bob back to the cars. With him sputtering about, something grabbed his ankles and started dragging him silently backyard. As we were checking for him for injuries, Bob indigently dusted himself off and said, "I'm alright, guys. It's a little scraped and some hurt pride. Vote that we regroup at Denny's and talk this out." Pastor Randall agreed. "Hey look, I'll join you guys in a little bit. I just want to get the number first." As Bob took off in his old F-150 pickup and Pastor Randall left in his Saturn, I walked a few doors down to Esther's house and knocked. She opened the door before my knuckle could hit the second time. She had been waiting, watching. "Hello, Esther. Could I trouble you for that psychic's number?" She smiled and handed me a piece of scrap paper with a name and a number already written on it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end, chapter 6. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again. It's another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 7. Bob and Randall were already at Denny's when I arrived. The waitress already took our orders as we sat there in awkward silence, because that's how men deal with emotionally traumatizing situations. They go quiet and brood about their problems. After our orders arrived, I broke the silence. I got the number of the psychic. Pastor Randall coughed uncomfortably, but I knew why. Christianity doesn't mix with New Age. I was raised with it all my life, so it was nothing new to me. Randall replied, "I don't like it. But it's not my place, and I certainly didn't deliver, so I'm at a loss." I looked at Bob. "What do you think?" Bob just slid the house key across the table. "Look, man, do what you want. I'm not up for this. Do you know, I woke up last night with a shadow trying to smother me? I thought it was just a bad dream. Look, return the key when you have had enough. Look, if you burn the house down, just make it look like an accident, or I'll disavow you. I like you, but I'm too old for getting dragged or whatever else this thing has in mind. Problem gets fixed, the bank will issue up $150 for pest control. Let's just say we got rid of rats officially and I mentioned psychic, okay?" I shook Bob's hand. "All right, man, I'll do what I can about the pest control issue. and I'll let you know the results. I'm gonna call her. Pastor Randall, I use the prayers of your church. You're welcome to come along too. Look, I just posted the request on the church Facebook page. For the ghost hunting? Why not? This is more fun than a youth group lock-in. Made the call. Hello? This is Alicia. Hi, this is Jonathan Campbell. Got your number from Esther, who said that you provide psychic services? Psychic medium? All mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. My mistake. Are you available to help? I assume that you're talking about the house on X Avenue with all the negative spiritual energy? That's the place. I do want to help, but I can only meet at 9 tonight. My college coursework is keeping me too busy. Can you do that? I inwardly groaned, but I kept a stiff upper lip. Because I am a guy, dang it. If a girl can face a scary ghoul at night, so could I. I ain't afraid of no ghost, I said, in perfect imitation of the Ghostbusters song. There was a silence on the other line. I have that effect on women sometimes. Hey, it's fun because I don't have to impress them. I'm off the market. Oh. Okay. I'll see you at 9. This is serious, right? She asked with a little skepticism. I coughed to buy a little time as I stifled the laugh. Pastor Randall arched his eyebrow at me. I'm sorry, Alicia. Humor is how I deal with stark raving terror. But I promise you that the caretaker, Bob Fraker, can pay you if you're able to keep us and help us take care of the problem. Randall and I met at the house on X a little earlier. We bumped fists in greeting and waiting. He said that that's what teens do in his church. Yeah, I can manage a fist bump every now and then. Alicia rolled up in a beat-up Honda Civic. Her hair was brown, with spiked blue and purple highlights. She was wearing ripped jeans and a jean jacket. He greeted me first. You must be Jonathan? Ah, how did you know? You must be psychic. She actually put her palm to her face in my reaction. Yes, I'm that corny. She brought her hand from her face and offered her hand to Pastor Randall. He introduced himself and gave me a disapproving look. I'm Pastor Randall, and I apologize for my friend. I think he's trying to deal with the terror we just faced this afternoon. It's okay. Kind of refreshing. Most guys just use cheesy pickup lines. So, do you charge for your psychic medium services? Yes, $100. You can pay me later. Okay, so what kind of experience do you have with this? Well, I've helped several ghosts crossed over while in college. Most of the time I give readings for clients, but I do see ghosts and I am able to talk to them. Most of the time, they aren't evil. They're just mischievous. You get any negative reaction, or they can be defensive, what they perceive as their home after people provoke them. Okay, see what you can do. She held her hand up. Can you wait outside? I'm already picking up that this entity doesn't want you inside. It may make things hard to have communication if things are flying around. Yeah, sure. I don't think that I want to get attacked again anyway. He clicked on her flashlight and walked into the house like it was the middle of the day instead of dark, scary, and full of shadows. I was feeling a little guilty over my feelings of relief. at having to stay outside instead of going into the house at night. After a quarter of an hour, Alicia came out, and I realized that no scary nasty thing had attacked her or dragged her to the backyard, nor sent her screaming like a little girl. I folded my arms to cover my shame and faced this young college girl like a man. Well, it is a few ghosts, some demons, and a poltergeist. They don't like you, Bob, or Pastor Randall. Okay, so it isn't a ghost. Yes, but there are some ghosts in there, and some strong spiritual echoes in the house too. I was able to talk to the ghost, and most of them moved on. There's nothing I can do about the poltergeist though. It was created by the traumatic emotions of the people who lived here decades ago. People with abilities. The poltergeist has been feeding on the ghosts, residents, and the neighbors. It has been feeding on you too. When you woke up to find a shadow over you, you thought it was smothering you, but it was feeding on your life force. Get stronger. It feeds best when it can possess someone and rape a victim. It feeds on both the attacker and the victim. Then it attaches to both and continues to feed on them. I was shocked, horrified, and violated. Why couldn't Pastor Randall exorcise it? Because it wasn't a demon. It doesn't like Christian images. The only thing you can do is take away the feeding tube. Anyone who is affected by this needs to seek counseling and some form of spiritual wellness, like yoga, tai chi, qigong, or a really good church, healthy counseling. I did my best to keep my shock in check. There have been some rapes over the last 20 years. Are you saying that these men could say, the devil made me do it? No. The temptation is presented to the person. When they give in to the temptation, the poltergeist can possess them and use them. It just tried to possess you without any prompting because you were in its house. It was a pure attack, and I couldn't recommend, and wouldn't recommend, that you go in there again. So, what do we do now? Well, I would like a chance to try and move on the other two ghosts. Then I'll sage the house for you. Then it will need to be smudged regularly until the activity stops. Should also have the lamp blessed. That will eventually make the spirit move. But it exists, and that is that. Alright. So, do what you can. I'm gonna go home and get some sleep. Thank you. And we shook each other's hands. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the end. Chapter 7. Yo, what is up everybody? So let's go back again. Another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author. Like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 8. The next morning, I woke up refreshed and well rested, as well as one can sleep on their sister's couch. It was just before 9 in the morning, and I took a deep breath, enjoying the wonderful feeling of sleeping in. As I was eating breakfast and enjoying my peppermint mocha coffee, Bob called. Hello, Jonathan? Hey, Bob, how are you? Good. Listen, I wanted to ask you if you could meet with Father McNally today. Told him about our adventures, and he has graciously offered to perform an exorcism on the house. Do you have the key? Sure, that's no problem. Bob gave me the number, and I called Father McNally. I called Alicia and Randall, left them a voicemail as well. I I arrived at the house a little before 1 o'clock, my meeting time with the priest. My phone rang, and it was Alicia. Hello? Hey, it's me, Alicia. Look, please ask the priest to hold off on the exorcism. It won't work. There are still 2 human ghosts in that house that haven't moved on. They don't mean any harm, and they will be exorcised too. Well, look, I didn't make this decision. Bob did. I'll try to talk to the priest for you. If he doesn't want to listen, there isn't much I can do. Alicia thanked me. We hung up. About 5 minutes later, a black Ford Focus rolled up to the side of the road. A man in his 50s, wearing black slacks, shoes, a sports jacket, and a priest collar, got out and smiled at me. You must be Jonathan? Yep, that's me. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Is a retort that I had on the tip of my tongue. Hey, look, I have a filter when I want to use it. Just then, Pastor Randall Saturn rolled up to the house. He got out, shook Father McNally's hand, and fist bumped mine, and then he said, so you brought the big guns. What happened to moving on spirits, smudging, and blessing? Hey, it's not my call or my house. I just happen to be delivering the key. Listen, Father McNally. I know someone who believes that there are also ghosts in there that need to be crossed over first. Can you do something for them before you perform the exorcism? You've been speaking with New Agers, huh? Yeah, sure, that isn't a problem. Normally, the church considers all ghosts demon too. But, just in case, I can perform the last rites. But, if they want to listen, that is up to them. But I'm here to remove the demon. He began to put his priest's stole over his shoulders, lit the beer, frankincense, and pull out his bottle of holy water. He began walking towards the house and chanting in Latin. The front door began to slam and open repeatedly. The closer Father McNally got to the house, the faster the door moved. The hair on the back of my neck began to rise up. As soon as the priest made it to the top of the front patio, the slamming stopped, and the door was left partly ajar. He stopped at the door and traced the cross in front of the doorway. Then he sprinkled holy water at the 4 corners of the doorframe. Looking back at us, he explained, "The last rites are completed. It's up to them now. Thank you." Father McNally began to swing his frankincense beer side to side, started a different chant in Latin. He entered the house, and I could hear the hum of his chant. It went on for several minutes, and I really hoped that this would be it. My cell phone rang, and as I checked the caller ID, I saw that it was Alicia. Hello? Jonathan, you need to get the priest out of the house, now. Exorcism isn't working. The poltergeist isn't a demon, but it is dangerous. It was born in that house, and it will defend itself. It's angry, and it's going to attack the priest. Then I heard Father McNally scream in terror. Randall and I ran for the front door. Just as we reached the patio, the door slammed shut so loud that it cracked the frame. "Help me! I'm out back! Help!" the father screamed. We bolted for the side of the house, leading to the backyard. When we reached the backyard, we could still hear Father McNally screaming and struggling, but we couldn't see him. "Where are you, Father? I don't see you." "I'm under the house. They're biting me. Help!" he yelled, as he continued with the muffled sounds of struggling, fighting. I looked behind me and saw the drag track leading down to the 4th deep down crawl space under the back of the house that served as a dirt floor cellar. The priest was covered in spiders, some of them black widows. He was kicking and screaming. So I saw a discarded aerosol can of spray paint and a lighter, probably from some teens tagging and doing other stuff. I grabbed them and headed into the crawl space with Randall on my heels. The lighter took a few tries, but it lit. Then I put the spray can to it and shot the spiders around the priest. The mere presence of fire even repelled the ones that were already on him. Randall darted in, grabbed Father McNally by the shoulders, pulled him up the hill while I finished emptying the can, spiders. When it was empty, I dropped my weapons and moved to help Randall to get the priest to level ground. As soon as I could, I called 911 while Randall examined McNally. I heard another car come into a sliding halt in front. Jonathan? Over here, in the back. Look, you need to move off the property. It's not done attacking you yet. It regards you as trespassers. Just then, the back door opened and slammed shut. That was my cue to go. Okay, all right, let's get him up, Randall and I grabbed each arm, and Alicia grabbed his legs. We could hear the ambulance on its way as we carried Father McNally to the cars by the roadside. What happened, Father? As soon as I tried to go up the stairs, I felt 2 hands grab my ankles and dragged me out the back door into that hole. Spiders. I feel sick, cold. The priest started shivering. We saw Father McNally off in the ambulance and agreed to meet at Denny's. On the way, I called Bob, who would also meet us there. After Bob arrived, we got him caught up with what happened to the priest. Alicia related to him what she learned in her walk of the house the day before. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 8. Yo, what is up, everybody? So let's go back again. Another chapter from the story titled The Haunting on X Avenue, written by Joshua Kimball. Remember to use the links in the description below. Show love to the author, like, comment, and subscribe. Chapter 9. Before leaving for the house, Alicia had opened her third eye and surrounded herself with a shield of light in her mind.